Are you thinking of buying, selling, or investing in real estate, but you don't know where to start? Have you searched for a realtor who will be nearby when they are needed, who will answer your calls and emails, who will go the extra mile to ensure your every need is met, who will help you with sourcing and supplying contractors while negotiating the best deal possible? Do you need a realtor who does not believe in high-pressure sales tactics or other gimmicks? Then you need me. My name is Steve Roy, and I offer a full-service professional sales and customized marketing package for my clients. I am helping clients with buying, selling, and investing. I will build a custom plan to fit your needs. I will work closely with you to ensure that you achieve your goals. My services include not only an analysis of your local market and correct pricing, but I will also help you to prepare your home for sale and make it look as desirable as possible to buyers by providing expert advice, using professional quality photographs, and compelling descriptions. Let me help you minimize cost and maximize your profits. Call me today, 207-649-8522.
And I came here in 1986 to run it for myself, and I signed the papers, and I was owner of the Red Barn Incorporated. People come in here for the experience, more so than I think anything else. And they love the fact that somebody's actually taking the time to listen. Maybe you learn in proportion to how much you listen and care. If you can find that balance between doing what you love that isn't really work, that might pay the bills, and can resonate with people and actually to some extent help people. Without my customers, I would be doing what I don't love, guaranteed.
Today's Kennebec Valley Forum is brought to you by Dan and Scott's Cremation and Funeral Service, Sunset Flowerland and Greenhouses, and KSW Federal Credit Union.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Kennebec Valley Forum. Today we're going to talk about window inserts and what they are and how to use them. And with that, I'll introduce Barbara Bailey. Would you please introduce the other two guests we have, Barbara?
Hi, I am the Window Dressers Community Coordinator. This is Chuck Lakin from Waterville. Sustain Maine started out to be. He works with window dressers. This is John Verrier, the Assistant Community Builder
Yeah.
The measurer.
person in Fairfield.
Good. Chuck, since you seem to have a lot of history of this, give us a background of how this whole thing got started and where it got started.
Started with these two guys in Rockland who really got interested in trying to do something about the condition of housing in the state of Maine. The most effective, cost-effective thing you can do is caulk and weather strip. But the second most effective thing you can do is try to do something with to cut your heat loss through your windows in your house, because most windows have an R value of at best 2, and most any wall will have an R value of at least 20 and on up from that. So it's a major heat loss. They figure about 30% of the heat loss in the house goes right out through the windows. So there's a man in the Damerscott area who had didn't invent window inserts, but he had a really good system for putting them together, putting them together. So they took his basic idea and then wanted to be able to make it available to as many people as they could. And so they set up a process where they will send somebody out, and it started off with just in the Rockland area, so they would send a trained team out to measure the windows. And then these people would cut the frame parts and then supply all the materials, the plastic coating on the surface that covers the surface of the frame, the tapes, the weather stripping, everything you needed to put it together. And they would provide, for example, tabletops that were large enough to actually do the material on. But not the whole table, you would set it up on tables that, like this place already has.
Right.
And then their goal was to keep spreading that out. And so now they will do it last year they did it for about over 5,000, made over 5,000 frames.
5,000.
But it
Wow.
wasn't just for Rockland, because they had 15 community builds, and including one in Fairfield, where the process got a little hectic, because we were trying to do it with Waterville and things weren't working out, and then it just got kind of complicated, but still made it. And how many houses?
200, how many houses, I don't know. I know we made 270 some odd inserts.
Wow,
And did it
that's a lot.
in 3 days.
Right,
And in fact, those days were only about 9 to 3 or 8:30
right,
to 3.
right, 9 to 3.
So we're getting
Well,
pretty
that's-
good at it.
Yeah,
And so the Rockland people, they continue trying to expand this. Now this year they figure they're shooting for 6,000 frames, and they think in their current location they have a capacity of about 8,000 frames. But when
Wow.
there are 557,000 households in Maine, and 90% of them need window inserts, which will have your heat loss going out through those windows, that they've got a lot of work to do.
yep, that's good. So, tell me a little bit about how this whole thing is working and who they contact, and
As usual, I see a good idea and I jump on it.
that's
I
good.
saw Waterville had a program, was interested, also saw our piece on the news, and said, wow, we have a lot of old community, old housing in our communities, Waterville's, Oakland's, Winslow's, Fairfield's, you name it. I thought it was something, I work with a lot with seniors, I thought it was something that a lot of our seniors could use for little cost and could help them. They shut off a lot of rooms in their homes, so if we could give them 5 or 6, or do 5 or 6 windows where they sit and stay, off and on all day, that could help them save money and stay warmer. And the Grange has the room and the capacity in Fairfield Center, and we have what it takes to set it up and keep it going for the 3-4 days without having to take it down because something else is going to be happening.
That's a great opportunity.
Right, and so the Granges are such a quiet organization in the state. They don't broadcast and they don't advertise all the good things they do. And I said, we have all these big Grange halls, and we could all get invested in this. So brought it to the Maine State Grange and said, hey, how about us taking part? Well, of course, they didn't want to jump in on it until they saw it done and saw how it worked and all of those good things.
Right.
But they loved the idea of it being a volunteer thing. You order windows and you actually are obliged to help out for at least 4 to 6 hours to help build these things, not only for yourself, but for those who can't.
Right.
For instance, we had someone come in with a walker and a wheelchair. Well, it was pretty hard to work around and walk around and do things. So we just said, you know what, we'll take over. If you want to send something for us to munch on or something, that would be great.
Yep.
So they did. But basically, it's a wonderful opportunity, and the Granges are embracing it. We have 2 other Granges coming to visit us this year and help out to see how it's run. I guess there's 2 other Granges in other parts of the state who've done it, Dover and can't remember the other one, but someone else. And so they, jumped in and said, yeah, we've done it for years, let's go for it. So we've decided it was well worth the effort. The community has really benefited from it, and we want to spread the word and say, hey, for $20 a window, we could do something for you. And we also have a program they also, window dressers, have a program that they donate 25% or something like that of their money to go to low income or whatever people in the area. That's pretty much how we get started.
Okay, John, would you explain, since you've got the window right
Got the
here.
window here.
Yeah, explain a little bit about what it is and how it is put together.
What we do is we go into the house and measure. Take this apart. Barbara sets up a time, and Barbara and I go out and measure with the laser measurement. So this is your frame. We'll measure it in 2 spots here and 2 spots here to make sure that any abnormalities of the frame are compensated.
Sure.
And then the window is built on the community build. This is a sample of what the window looks like.
Yeah,
Like Chuck said earlier, the frame is built on, screwed and glued. And if it's a normal sized window, has a strut in the middle. So
Okay.
that gives you support, so the edges don't bow in.
okay. That's a
right.
replica, it would be the full length of the window, right?
Yeah, and
Correct.
some houses have small windows like this. Any
Yeah.
window will do.
Yeah,
And some, even big
Sliding glass doors.
sliding glass doors, sliding glass, Florida rooms, anything. It's good sized window.
yeah, that's awesome. And what is, obviously you can see the wood, but the other materials that are in it, John?
There's two layers of plastic, double face tape to hold the plastic in, packing tape to hold the plastic in too, and it's shrink wrapped on a device that Chuck built, that you lay it down like a cookie sheet and take all the wrinkles out of it, so it's pretty clear.
Beautiful.
We wrap it up with foam, double face, single face tape foam, and it goes right into the window. A tight fit,
I would think it'd want to be.
nice and tight. Any kind of variations is taken up on the foam, and it's inserted by hand and removed, but the paint can't open it.
Okay,
Because it's so tight, it causes a suction.
yeah. So that'll hold it in there, you don't need any reinforcement on the outside? or anything.
No, it does not go on the outside
Just
at all.
fits right in.
This goes on the
Fits right
inside
in.
of the home.
Goes on the inside of that?
Yes.
Inside,
Okay.
this
That's
is not,
right, I
this is
forgot.
not a storm window.
Yeah.
This is
Inside.
another insulating factor so that cold air coming through the window is stopped between these two. The R value is not really, it's important, but getting what's the word I'm looking for?
The surface temperature of the inside of a piece of glass is probably going to be pretty close to the temperature outside, a
Right.
little bit warmer than that. And you always lose heat in a direct line radiation through a colder body. But you see that with this piece of plastic, if the outside of the glass is here, you've got a dead space of
Inside,
air
yeah.
plus two layers of plastic that are creating
A buffer
these
there.
buffer zones,
Yeah.
and so the inside temperature of this is going to be close to the room temperature.
Yeah.
So you're more comfortable just being in the area, plus you can see how the weather stripping
Yep,
blocks any leaks you had, like a lot of double hung windows, the gap between the two that you try to lock down, you
Yeah,
know, the
it's
stripping's
still gonna
gone,
be
and all
loose.
the movable parts,
Yep.
you know, that's, stuff's coming down there, that doesn't, you've blocked all that coming through.
wow. That's pretty cool.
And they're easy to take in, I mean, put in
Yeah.
and take out.
Yeah.
And so you just store them so that basically, you can use them, what do they say? Up
I
to,
figure 10 years is the average lifespan for one of
10
those.
years, wow, that's
And
pretty
if
cool.
you have them one made commercially, the average cost is about $60.
Right.
The average, what window dressers cost is, charges about $20 for the
Yeah.
same window.
Wow.
And all you're paying for, half the cost goes to the materials.
Yeah.
A quarter of the cost basically goes to their overhead, you know, they're paying
Sure.
rent on the place, they're buying tools, they're making equipment, they're, all this other stuff. And then a quarter of it pays for the windows for those people who don't have the money to be able, I mean, the
Right.
$20 for a window is not,
Yeah.
is
So-
more than they can do.
Would you say that it's on a sliding scale of what you can afford, or?
It's either you get them, well, they charge you $10, you know, a token fee. So you
Yeah.
either get them at that price, or $10 for 10 windows, or you pay the per square foot price. So they figure out a price per square foot for each window, and then the computerized system that they're using just automatically determines the price. And so you know, because they are able to now put all the measurements go directly into a computer program, and that computer program, while you're sitting there, after you've done the measurements, you can tell the people how much it's gonna cost for each window. So you know in advance whether you can afford this, or how much you wanna spend on this, or if you wanna do these windows now and do the others later, or whatever you want.
That's nice. And when I was talking about a slide scale and going with the elderly, or on fixed incomes.
Right.
And, there are people that would love to have them that aren't on fixed incomes.
Correct.
So that would be on the upper side of the $60. And I'm trying to get a picture of, pardon the pun, of how that works.
So it's basically either $10 for 10 windows, or you're paying around $2.25 for each square foot. So the average price is about $20.
Yeah,
And that's an average large window, not just today's standard windows. I'm talking, the Grange
Yeah.
windows are like $24. I
Yeah.
think we did 8 sliding glass door windows, and they were $28 a piece.
Yeah.
Each panel. So it's very reasonable. And one of the other things I was gonna say is the 10 for $10. Many of the seniors we addressed last year said, I can pay more than that. I can give you $10 a window or $5 a window. I'm not gonna, I'll donate it towards someone else getting some.
sure.
Because it's low
That's
enough
great.
and is good enough that they feel good about providing what they could without being charged a certain amount and saying, gosh, I can only afford 2, or 3. And the other thing is we start measuring in May, and we don't build these till September, so they have time to save money towards
Sure.
these windows.
That's a great point.
I was gonna say, that was some of the things that we ran into, people who had 3 or 4 sliding glass doors in the house or big windows. And it's like, I really need my living room because I sit and watch TV and I'm freezing, but I'd really like to have part of my kitchen done. And, well, I'll order these 3 for the living room, but if I can raise some money, I'll get the kitchen later. So we measure anything they think they want, and then if they save the money, we can, or want them later, we can do it. And every one of the senior citizens that we've measured and did any windows with have all said they were so much more comfortable sitting beside their window watching outside and the TV, because that draft wasn't coming through.
Right, that's a
And
big
the
deal.
old-fashioned plastic around the window, when they take it off, it rips apart their molding and paint, etc. And this was just slide in, slide out.
Awesome.
Store it.
Yep, that's
So-
great, that's fantastic. So you've got a crew out here that you will have in September to do more windows and stuff, and
Right.
they're gonna utilize the Grange.
We are,
You've talked about the main state
right?
Grange, the headquarters
Right.
of the Grange. And you said there are some Granges that are doing that, and I know you and I talked a little bit about Diana, and they have a Grange there as well, so
Right.
maybe that's something they could do to
Right. And the
do
state
that, or any
Grange,
other Grange for that matter.
I was gonna say, the state Grange didn't really, the other 2 Granges who have done it, didn't really tell the state Grange, not that they have to, that they were doing this program and how good it was.
Okay.
And I had run into someone and said, we've got these big halls and in Waterville, that was part of their problem. They couldn't find a place to set up all of these jigs and all of these tables and leave it for like a week to have everybody do things. And they had to keep taking down and putting up, and that's where I came in. But I said, we have these buildings that are utilized, but not as near as much as it could be. And so when I did mention it to the state Grange, they jumped right on it and said, hey, this is going on, these 3 Granges do it, go and visit them, see what it's like, see if it's something you want to take on in your area. Needless to say, most of the Grangers of the past 150 years or so live in older houses, the farmers and things,
Right.
and they need these things desperately. So they are jumping on it, I believe, and they love to do things for the community, and this is one of the reasons they're doing it.
And you said you did how many windows in Fairfield so far?
257.
257.
And it was our first time, and, we weren't sure, we didn't know, we hadn't seen a program, we just jumped onto it. And that was part of the thing, was we were going cold turkey, wasn't sure, but I'll tell you, Rockland gives you all of what you need, from how to sign people up to, you know, every piece of, I mean, they send you boxes of screws, glue, razor blades to cut the heaters, what do you call those heaters to shrink?
Heat gun.
Heat guns. All of the wood, extra wood, in case you break something or mess something
Wow.
up.
That's
The
pretty good
plastic,
support.
very
A,
good.
a cup of white paint in case some of them can be, or pine, some of them are painted white, and so if the white paint gets dirty or something, they even supply some paint that you can touch
There
it
you
up
go.
before you put the plastic on.
That's great. So how do you fit into this, Chuck, and
That's
helping?
what I was just gonna say.
Well, I got into it just because I'm terrible at administration and get bored with the paperwork. But I'm a woodworker and I just love making things up.
Yeah,
And so there's a man named Stephen Shaw in Portland who is on the board of window dressers, and he and I got together and we've made new jigs for every step in the process
oh, there you go.
that so far everybody seems to like a lot.
Right.
And made it simpler and more accurate. You know, you started off with, you had to, just by eye, you're trying to put these tapes in the middle of the edge of a board. And so now you don't have to do that because we have a jig that you just slide this right
Right.
over there, and it automatically centers and applies pressure to the
Right.
tape.
Wow.
Literally, there's no way to screw it up, I'm gonna be honest with
Yeah.
it, because they have made a jig for every process. I
Absolutely.
know that's not a good word, but, you know, when you
Yeah.
do the frames, for instance, they've made a jig to hold the corners together, plus this way, so that, and actually, I'm not sure if I can't remember, but you actually have a guide for the screw to go in straight, not crooked. And then the next step is putting on the double-sided tape. And he has a jig where it looks like a planer kind of thing, and the tape is attached, and you start at the corner and you slide it across the window, the double-sided tape is on it. Go around the window and it goes to the next table. And the next table is putting the plastic on it, and he has, basically you have something that rolls the plastic out, and I can't remember how it goes, but it separates the two pieces so that it, you know, you don't have to sit there and wet your fingers and, you know, separate it,
Yeah,
a dowel.
The plastic is 44 inches wide, but it's folded over once to make it convenient to
Right.
To ship.
both transport and handle, which means that you gotta open it up. But it's been under pressure and the plastic has some static electricity, so if you don't kind of pull them apart as you're pulling it off the roll, you'll never get it, it's really time consuming to get it started again. So there's a splitter, as you're pulling it off the roll, there's a dowel that comes in from the side that automatically just pulls the two pieces apart.
Wow.
And he invented, I mean, they
I
invented
didn't-
this, you and
I
Steve,
didn't,
okay, Steve did.
The
But he-
competition between those two.
Right, the competition.
Oh, no, pure cooperation.
But anyway, so we put the double-sided on, you put the tape on, I mean, the plastic on. Then it goes to another table where the other second side of double-sided tape is put on, so that you've got both of your sides. Goes back to the plastic wrap, goes back to, so you've got your two sides of plastic on. Then there's another table or stand or whatever it is. He actually has stands set up for all the windows to stand up in between each table, or each station, I should say.
Wow.
So that, you know, there's always some place to put what you finished and what you're waiting to finish.
Yeah,
And it goes to that stand, and then he has another jig set up for double-sided tape.
yeah,
And that secures all the plastic, correct?
Yeah, it seals everything together all the way around.
Mhm.
You know, it's, so you have a piece of packing tape that's about just under 2 inches wide that's centered on that 3/4 inch thickness of the pine. And so it goes over the edge and then folds down over either side. And you can actually see it. You can,
Yeah.
or you could feel.
yep, I can see it.
You- And you can also
Awesome.
notice what a nice straight line that is.
Oh, yes, it is. You brought the prime example, I see that.
Exactly. Well, they're all built this way because of these jigs that they've
Yes.
invented.
Oh, it's-
And we had a bunch of 6 teenagers or 7 teenagers come. In fact, 2 of them were under 14. And they came to volunteer because their mom got some windows. And that was their community project for their school to graduate, etc. But they did this double-sided plastic tape because you couldn't mess it up. It just sat on the rail of the window, went across, and just, it folds it over, gets the edge, and then,
Two passes.
Right,
You apply
one
the
for-
tape with one tool, and then you fold it with the second tool.
right. And so they did that, and then it goes to
Great.
shrinking.
No.
That's great, I just think it, you know, that's good volunteerism, and I would suspect that if you've got a location vis-à-vis the Grange Hall, that it would make sense to be able to expand that into other communities, out into Oakland or wherever, that people need windows. But how do they find out about them? Who do they call?
Well, in this area, of course, I've taken on the charge of doing the community build, what do you call it, coordinated with John. And you're calling our home number because we have an answer machine and we can check it anywhere. But basically, I was the guinea pig who wanted to do it. So,
There
you know,
you go.
you come up with a bright
Yeah.
idea and you gotta follow through. So, and anybody can join us in Fairfield. It's just we're located in Fairfield, so we call it the Fairfield Build.
Yeah,
And they call me at 453-9476, John. It's addressed under here's number. And
and say that again?
453-9476. And we have the posters, we have the handouts that I'll be spreading around to basically the communities, anybody who wants it, basically.
Yeah.
And they have to, that's part of the issue, they have to volunteer. That's part of the way of keeping the cost down.
Yep, they
It really is
can
key.
do something.
They can, I mean,
you know,
even if,
well, it's providing
You
cooking
know,
and stuff.
that barn raising idea, the community does it together, and so
Yep.
they all have something invested in it.
I know we did a barn raising in Mount Vernon, I remember that.
Yeah.
It's a good project,
it is.
it's good, and it becomes a lot of fun because you get a little enjoyment out of helping somebody, plus the fellowship of working together and doing stuff. I can understand that.
Now, we
It's a
had,
good thing.
whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. We had, because we did it for the first time, I was real worried about how many windows we could actually do. They kept saying, oh, you can do 300, you can, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm worried. I'm not sure if we'll get the volunteers, I'm not sure, we'd never seen it, so we didn't know how much support we'd have. And we had people call to want to sign up to get windows, but it was too late because everything had been cut. Everything comes, when we pick it up, it's all cut and bundled and all the parcels together, so that we have it all. And so, of course, they hadn't signed up early enough for us to get windows cut for them and stuff. So I took their names and things for this year. And they wanted to see what it was all about. We had them come and visit and ended up coming back 2 or 3 times to just help because they were so intrigued by the
That's
process.
great. That's
And they
fantastic.
enjoyed doing it and said, oh, I'll be back next year. I know I'm making my windows, but I don't mind volunteering more than my 4 hours.
Right,
We had a man who was 86, is it? Who did every hour that we were there, all 3 days, plus another couple here and there, and just said, if I'm alive, I'll be back next year. And he
That's
didn't get
good.
one window. And he's not a member of the Grange, member of the community, and wanted to help and wanted to be involved.
that's great.
Said he had a ball.
That's getting down to the grassroots where you can really depend on people. Maine people are like that. You don't see them volunteering because they don't know that there's a need for them,
Right.
you know, and, but I'm glad to see that that's coming together, and I think it'll be good for all the communities, not just Fairfield, but
Right.
Waterville, Oakland, anybody around here that needs windows and wants windows. I'm sure this team could more than adequately
Right.
service the area. And
There's 22 builds this year, 22 communities. Many of them are on the coast, in those areas. However, there are some like in Dover, Foxcroft, and Bangor, Brewer, some of the I call it inner, in-state,
Yeah.
central Maine area. And we can steer you to other builds if it's closer to you. And if these other Granges or whoever want to take the opportunity to do one in their area and they want to come and visit, see us and see how it all works, we're willing to share and help. And Sustain Maine has been with this for how many years? 5 or 6 maybe?
They started about 3 years after, some 4 years maybe.
Okay.
How I know there's some cost, as you said, for the wood supplies and stuff you need. Does Maine State Housing Authority do anything with you for that?
I don't know of that.
Not that I know of, no.
Right, and KV Cap, those kind of things in this area will send people to window dressers, but there's no financial support of it.
Okay.
And I guess that's one of the things that Sustain Maine was trying to do at one point, get some kind of a grant to help them save energy. I know I called the local church group, forget what it's called, but
Council of Churches.
Council of Churches, and said, hey, you know, we've got an idea that could help save money on your emergency funds and stuff. And the comment was not that they didn't want to do it, but basically their organization was for that emergency, not to help them save money. If you ran out of oil and it's March and you had no money, they would put oil in, so they couldn't spend that money towards preserving. And I understand that. I mean, if you've literally, you
I'm
know,
having a hard time
I am
understanding.
having a hard time, but I do understand where they're coming
Because
from.
they're gonna save with the fuel if they put
If
the
they
windows
could.
in.
But if they only have X amount of money to help that emergency fund,
Oh, I understand.
you know, I can understand that they can't really, my comment to them was, how about if you did 70-30 or something and give us 30% or do 30% on windows saving energy and then 70 on emergency funding? Well, we never know how much we're gonna get, you know, because they fundraise and they don't know how much they're gonna need, so they couldn't quite commit. But it's, you know, I understand it, so.
Yeah, I would think that, you know, it might make some sense from my point of view, at least, to go to Maine State Housing and see what they might have for helping with the materials and stuff. And Efficiency Maine, of course, is a good organization to get stuff from.
Right.
Trying to figure out ways that might help you.
Right,
I
and
know
it's,
getting the word out there to
Right.
people is a good thing, because now they know somebody they can call, and before winter gets here, they wanna be thinking about how much they paid for heating oil, even though the price has gone down, that you can save a lot, as you said, Chuck, by that insulation and the dead airspace in between. Makes a lot of sense.
And so the money you saved this year by not having to pay so much for fuel oil, if you invested that money in something like weather stripping, caulking, and interior storm windows,
Right,
your bill will be lower next year, so you'll be paying about the same amount.
that's right.
and you know, I live in a home that was built in the 80s, and had Anderson windows in, and of course they were double pane at the time. They sold what we call window inserts to minor casement, and you'd put them where your screens went. They were another pane of glass, and they made it triple pane, and you were supposed to save money. But my heat loss wasn't there. My heat loss was around that, and this changed that.
Yep.
These changed that completely. It blocked that air. What I was doing was putting a pane of glass in front of 2 panes of glass. And
Yes.
that glass loses a lot of heat, and so this changed it and made a big difference. The other point I want to make is no one makes money. Whoever does a community build, they're not getting any money from
Right.
it.
Yeah.
The Grange is not making any money. They're doing it as a community service. And we at the Fairfield Grange decided to focus our attention on seniors in town. We have a huge population in Fairfield of senior citizens that are
Right.
trying to stay in their homes. And if $50 or $100 will keep them in their home for another winter, it's well worth us kind of going
Absolutely.
after them. The seniors didn't really come to us and ask at first because they didn't know the program. And we do so well at educating our seniors on scams and strangers and phone
Sure.
calls that they didn't answer.
Right.
It's, you know, unless they knew you, they didn't answer their phone, they didn't answer the door, etc. So we went out and got a few, and now they're our biggest advocate. It's like on the phone, hey Bob, when are you guys gonna do that? I got friends that want them, just call me, let me know.
Yep.
They wanna order them for themselves now, but it had to be somebody in the area that could vouch for the program.
That's a very important thing, because there's so much paranoia out there, and rightfully so,
Yes.
about scams and people that are just trying to get your money and trying to get your reputation, everything
Right.
else with it. And
And-
I applaud you guys for doing it.
And
You know,
part
it's a
of-
tremendous project.
Part of the thing was these guys' window dresses were from away.
There you go.
Rockland, Belfast,
coast.
but it was
Yeah.
down on the coast. How do we know them? How do we know they're good? In fact, it was to the point where people who were paying didn't want to pay because they were sending it to Rockland or Belfast. We don't know them. How do we know we're gonna get, we're not gonna get scammed on our credit card or our
Sure.
checking account? And so we had to make a program special up here that we could print the receipt, we could print the bill and everything right in front of them so that they would see it was all legit, and we
That's-
represented that company.
That's fantastic, because that's what it takes. You know, transparency for these people to feel comfortable with doing that. And like you said, I'm sure that after you've had a few on board, they become great advocates for you.
They were,
Without
they
a
were an
doubt.
honor. So,
Any closing comments you'd like to make, Chuck, or anybody?
yeah, Chuck, no? Okay, thanks to Chuck and Steve, we have every jig imaginable. You cannot, I had people say, we're not very good with our hands, if there's something we could do, and it's like they got there and said, oh, I can do this, this is good, could I try something else now, and so they changed stations.
Sure.
Another thing that happened is basically, I do want to say that we are taking and starting measuring May 1st, and we will be, our window dressers will be building and putting our build together, meaning all the equipment and all the windows, all the pieces, all the frames. They order the material, and our build is September 8th through the, what did I say?
20th, 22nd.
20th, thank you, 22nd, whatever.
22nd?
Yeah, okay, whatever. Gives us 2 whole weekends and during the week to, pick up
Great.
stuff, bring stuff back.
So you're gonna start in May measuring, and
Correct.
people wanna get in touch with you. What was that number again? 453
9476.
9476.
And if they could estimate the number of windows that they might want, it helps because we really kind of stick to the 300. Chuck says we can do more than 300, but I'm nervous.
Yeah, oh, if he says we can do it, I think you can.
So, it's like we might be able to do more, guys, but we do, why I'm telling you the build date is because that's the period of time you need to volunteer.
Right,
From the 8th through the 20th at least, or 22nd, so that you can plan on some of that time coming in and volunteering your 4 to 6 hours.
yeah,
And maybe a couple others to help someone who can't come in and who is
Yeah.
homebound or something.
and there's always volunteers. Fairfield's always been good about volunteering, and I'm sure that once the word is out there, that you'll get some phone calls
Right,
and some windows and some volunteers to work on them.
right. I have a list of 12 houses already that want windows.
Well, there you
So,
go.
and that's from through the winter, when they talked to their friends and saw how much heat they were saving. So I'm not worried about spreading the word in that respect. I think it's gonna be, it will just progress. But I just wanted the public to know about this program because I think it's worth investing in,
Oh,
You know,
big time, yes.
a little bit. And I think every community could look at something like this and maybe eventually, get more and more help.
I know Mount Vernon is, the Community Partnership Corporation there has went up to Farmington and learned how to put them together and stuff. But this sounds like it's a step above
Yeah,
with the jigs and everything else you've got. You can really get into some sort of mass production here that is cost effective and very efficient
So you
to
did
do that.
257 frames, and we did it in 3, basically 6-hour days.
yeah,
Yep, that's a lot,
yeah. But it's
and fast.
It's so
Fair
smooth.
enough.
It's
Yep.
such a smooth transition from station to station. And they've made all these jigs so you can't mess it up. And, the big deal was just getting those orders, and getting them built and then putting them together and getting them picked up.
If somebody had questions about the process, not only can they call you,
Sure, they can
You
call
might be
me.
able to show them how it's set up and how it works.
Chuck, window dressers, any of us would answer very freely. You know, it's not a process that anybody's afraid to advertise, I guess is what
Right.
I'm saying.
Yeah, because it's a tremendous service to the community. It
Right.
really is. I can
If
see
they just
that.
want to see how it's done, so they want to go build their own,
Yeah, that's
fine
fine.
with us.
Right.
Yep, there are some closet carpenters out there that like to do things like that for projects, yeah, without a doubt.
Right.
Well, I thank you for all the information and look forward to hearing a follow-up on this and down the road and see how you do this fall. Maybe we can get together again and have another chat that shows how things are going this fall.
Thank you,
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Well, thank you all for being here. And that'll do it today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Kennebec Valley Forum.
Ounce of Prevention is sponsored by
I'm inside of me, you're inside of you. If you touch me without permission, I'm gonna tell on you.
All right, we're rolling.
I'm gonna call them kitty heads. I'm going for blue. What do you think? Which is the I think.
Lucifer, the light of heaven, that sinner never was forgiven, banished to his lowly station, till he checks out in Revelations. Why you keep up your lie makes no sense to me. They made me a throne in heaven, and I picked hell for the company. Why?
Hi, and welcome to a very special episode of Ounce of Prevention. I'm Vicki Morgan, and I am joined today by Troy Bennett and Dave Rowe. You may know them by the name the Squid Jiggers. So we are going to have a chat today about how the Squid Jiggers started and talk about an event that we've got coming up that you guys are the reason we are all dressed in blue. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us here.
Absolutely, my pleasure, my pleasure. So can you guys tell me how the Squid Jiggers got started?
Well, Troy and I have known each other had known each other before we started for a number of years, playing in different bands together, or different bands. How do we do this?
Well, I entered the personal ad first.
Oh, that was
and
it?
then Dave. We were in different bands that kind of played the same kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
And then we both had a spot where we needed somebody, and Dave called me up. And I thought, what does Dave Rowe need me for? But I went over to his house, and we jammed, and we shook hands and said, I'll call you. And then neither one of us called each other for another year.
Oh, wow.
And then Dave called me again and said, I think, this is a quote, direct quote. He said, I think we should make good on our threat.
Okay. Okay.
That's it in a nutshell. And then I went over to your studio, and we rehearsed for a second time, and changed a few things up that time, and it worked, and we started booking gigs and playing shows. And
So what happened to the other bands that you guys were in? Are they?
We still have those too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about those in a minute. So the Squid Jiggers. I'm from Newfoundland, so I'm quite familiar with what a squid jigger looks like, and was kind of shocked to see a band called the Squid Jiggers. So
Down here.
where'd the name come from?
It's fairly random,
yeah, we both were enamored with a song called The Squid Jigging Ground from Newfoundland. And when we were making lists of band names, potential band names, because we really didn't want to go out under our own names, because Bennett and Rowe sounded a little too much like a law firm.
Accountants.
So we started emailing these lists back and forth of, names we thought would work for the band. And I hated most of Troy's ideas, and he hated most of my ideas.
What were some of the ideas? Whiskey Punch, Over the Rail, two sheets to the wind.
2 sheets to the wind.
That's right. Squid Jiggers was the joke one at the bottom of the list that we never
Kept going back and
we never
forth.
crossed out.
Oh, nobody vetoed that one.
It never got vetoed, and eventually, just by default, we became the Squid Jiggers.
And how long have you guys been the Squid Jiggers?
What year was this?
76 years? 7 years?
7 years.
7 years.
Okay, wow. That's so how would you describe the Squid Jiggers?
It feels much longer.
Well, most good relationships do.
How would we describe ourselves? Well, we're a lot of fun.
We're both about 6 feet tall.
Yep. And I like chocolate ice cream.
I like long walks to the beach.
Yep.
Well, we play folk music, and some of it's from Newfoundland, some of it's from it's like sea shanties, and some of it's sort of Celtic and Irish and Scottish, that kind of thing.
The best. I mean, the best music that there is, really.
Yeah, and I mean, some of it's from here, too. I mean,
yeah, we have songs of our own, too, that are kind of more Maine than everything else.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So when I first came to Maine about 8 years ago, I was at a hockey game, and on the way out, they started playing Portland Town. I said, oh, isn't that sweet? They're playing, they must know I'm here, and they're playing that song from home, because obviously the Masterless Men wrote that, and got home and looked it up and was quite shocked to find out.
It's a piece of Portland, Maine music. Yes.
Who's the Masterless Men?
Exactly, right? I mean, that's what, but in Newfoundland, Portland Town is, we have so many Newfoundlanders who go off to New England or join, who meet up with people who are in the military and get married and move down to the U.S. We just own all these songs. Anything that mentions Boston, we own. It's just how it is. But that song is just that's one of the classics in Newfoundland, and I believe there's a connection there.
There sure is.
Yep, yeah. My dad was a member of Schooner Fair, who's originally the performer of that song. So Steve Romanoff wrote that.
You sang it with him probably yesterday, right?
I sang it with him yesterday.
Yeah, wasn't there? You guys just finished up a Tom Rowe benefit concert, a Schooner Fair reunion.
A Schooner Fair
reunion.
The Tom Rowe show is later on in the spring.
Okay. And when will that be happening?
That'll be on May 13th up in Auburn at the First Universalist Church.
And is that a fundraiser? Is that?
It is. It benefits the Jack McPhillips Memorial Fund, which exists just to do good for people when they need help the most. So if somebody has a cancer diagnosis and all of a sudden they're having trouble paying their medical bills, all of a sudden a check will show up in their mailbox. Stuff like that.
Wow. So what was the connection for that to your dad?
Schooner Fair and Devon Square, which all started out as one supergroup back in the 70s, started doing these reunions back in the 80s because Jack McPhillips hated having to go to see his favorite bands in 2 different places. So he started bringing them together, and he would do good things with the money. So after he passed from leukemia, the Jack McPhillips Memorial Fund was started, and their mission was to do exactly what he did. So. Wow,
that's great. And one of the reasons we're here is because you guys are not available on the night that we're doing our the Empower Miles for Smiles walk on April 23rd, because you guys are going to another benefit for a local musician. Is that?
Yeah. Actually, I'm a very good friend of mine, former bandmate, has a form of lymphoma. And a bunch of musician pals are getting together, and we're raising some money to help defray his medical bills. Yeah. So,
unfortunately, there's no shortage of good causes.
Well, absolutely, but when you see a bunch of musicians coming together like that, I mean, that's something that reminds me of home. It seems like you guys are a natural fit to what I've grown up with in Newfoundland, and I understand you guys are a pretty popular attraction at some Newfoundland events that go on here in the States.
The premier Newfoundland event.
Probably the only ones, really.
I just recently found out about this Newfoundland club that's here, who is expertly organized by Daphne Iser, and she brings all these Newfoundlanders together, and you guys are the premier act to have there. So can you tell me what it's been like to meet Newfoundlanders? What's been your experience?
Awkward mostly, because we're Yankees and we're a little stoic.
We've had to learn how to drink heavily.
We learn how to have a better time when we're not playing music. It's a real fun-loving group. We thought we were fun-loving until we met Newfoundlanders.
Well, we've both been screeched in too, and I have to tell you, I wouldn't do it again. So.
Well, that's something that I think that was kind of invented for mainlanders. It's kind of a joke. So good sports to.
We've been joked on, trust me.
Well, you're good sports to participate in the cod, in the whole Bologna and screech. I mean, God love the screech, but I've never touched it. I'm in a few decades, and I've never.
That's not what we heard. We heard everybody got it in their bottles at home and when they were babies. No?
Pepsi.
Oh, Pepsi. Oh,
Pepsi in the bottles.
Oh,
yeah,
much better.
That's
much
terrible.
better.
No, we take very good care of our children in Newfoundland, and we
I'm
go off
sure.
and we raise families in other places, and we do a great job with them. And we take care of kids really well, which kind of leads me to what we're doing later in April. We've got this Miles for Smiles. It's the Empower Miles for Smiles walk that's going on in April on the 23rd. And it is to, there's a walk for survivors of abuse, and it's a family-friendly event that we have going. It's to raise awareness of child abuse prevention initiatives that are in the state already. Because certainly there are a lot of times when people don't know, like abuse happens sometimes almost because people are often uneducated and don't know what to do and they don't have all the answers. There are plenty of programs available already in the state that people are just unaware of. So the walk is to celebrate survivors, because you have to be pretty tough to survive what people go through. So we want to celebrate that. We want to invite people to participate so they can thank people who've supported them. And also, we're really going to focus on children, because that's really what it's all about. We can do a thing for adults all day long, but if the kids are there being ignored and overlooked and shushed, that's not what we want. Kids thrive in happy environments. They thrive when they have happy parents. So, which to me lends itself to music and enjoying music and playing music together. And Dave, you had something on your website a few weeks back that you are very involved with the Universalist Church out in
Auburn.
Yeah. And you delivered a homily out there about music as therapy, as that there's mental health benefits to it. So,
absolutely.
Do you mind telling me about that?
And it's more singing than just music alone. Singing itself, your brain releases happy chemicals, and suddenly you feel better about the entire world just by doing that. You know, it's like putting a smile on your face.
Right.
But you know, it really is important to me that people sing with their children, that people sing. I think it's something that, you know, that it's the only instrument that we're all endowed with at birth. Nobody walks out of the womb with a guitar strapped to them, you know. So
that would be awkward.
Wow.
We all know how to play this instrument
right
from the beginning. I mean, the first thing we do is cry.
Right.
And so many people, you know, you say sing along. Oh no, I couldn't carry a tune if it was strapped to me. And I just think that's sad. I think that's monstrously sad. And what it speaks to is that parents are not singing with their children. So it never turns into something that they are allowed to own. You know, and very often they'll, you know, be on a long car trip with kids in the car, and, you know, when they're not saying, "Are we there yet?" they might be singing. Yeah. And, you know, Dad will turn around and say, "Cut that out, cut that noise out," you know, and it takes away from the children something that could be a lifelong love
yeah.
and lifelong, you know, builder of their own personal health and hygiene.
So it sounds like you're of the opinion that even if you're not a great singer, it's still a joyful noise and worthwhile. Okay. Usually in the mornings we have a new puppy. That likes to poop on the floor, and I'm a germaphobe. I don't do well with poop. And to diffuse it, I will get up and pick up the poop, and I'll sing to my 3-year-old, my 6-year-old, "Mom loves picking up poop in the morning." And I didn't even realize it until my husband was home on Saturday morning, and my son started singing the song to him when he was cleaning up poop. So I find it therapeutic to sing. I love to listen to music, and I find it's something that can bring you out of, you know, some depths sometimes.
Absolutely.
And it's and something that I find musicians share and take care of each other. And there's something special about performing together that it bonds people. You know, it's something that it's just a really beautiful experience to be able to play with people. So I'm really glad you guys are here, and I'm glad you've been able to maintain this for so long. And you guys are okay sharing a little bit of your talents with us a little later
Definitely.
on, right?
That's all we have to share.
We have no other marketable skills, really.
So there's also, of course, you guys will be at the Newfie Picnic, which happens later in July, and it's hosted by the wonderful Daphne Iser and her husband. And they actually have people over to their house, which is about as Newfoundland as you can get. You know what? I want to have a party. I'm just going to do it.
They have about 100 people over there.
I think they would do it in the kitchen if it was big enough.
Well, it's supposed to be in a kitchen, and there should be a wood stove. Even if it's not lit, there should be a wood stove. And in July, we don't need it here.
There is a fire. There's a fire.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
A fire. There's a big tent.
And, you know, this walk, I kind of considered having it at my house, because if it's just my husband and myself and my children walking, because this walk that we're doing started in Newfoundland. by a wonderful woman who was a survivor like myself and wanted to do something to kind of give back. Because once you learn a few things, it's nice to kind of share that information so that it prevents it from happening to other kids. So she's been doing the walk in Newfoundland for the last 5 years, and because nobody has ever heard of it when you start these things, we are doing a day called Go Blue Day, where we're inviting people to dress in blue, paint your face blue, walk around town in a blue skin suit and take ridiculous pictures, whatever it takes. And on April 21st, to go post those pictures on social media, to just start the conversation. And someone commented the other day on my Facebook event page and said, how about you do something constructive? Like, well, we'll get to that. Talk about it first, and then we'll get to, it has to start somewhere. And I saw a sign in a minor hockey arena one time, and it said, if you're not planning to replace our volunteers, please don't criticize them. So that's my approach to this. And the Newfoundland connection was obvious, and I'm bummed that we're not going to be able to have you out at the walk, but I'm so glad you guys have agreed to perform for us.
Anything we can do, yeah.
And thank you so much and I think you guys have definitely embraced the Newfoundland spirit and the kindness and helping with these things. And I mean, I guess why would you want to help with this? Why would something that, we invite somebody in to spend an evening at the CTN studio here in Portland and talk about child abuse? Why would you care?
Well, I mean, we all were kids once, and even the person with the greatest childhood had a moment that was really just terrible.
Mm-hmm. Or saw it happen,
Or saw it happen.
Had a friend, yeah.
And it all starts, doing something constructive. Like, it all starts with education. All of it starts with education, and you can't even start that conversation until you call attention to it.
Yep.
Right. Sometimes it takes a blue suit to raise the issue, and then once people know what you're talking about, then you can talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And Dave, you're a parent. I mean, any moments in the past, your son is...
He's 17
17.
now, so.
Any moments in the 17 years that you didn't know what to do?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the only thing I could do is take a deep breath, walk away, and count to 10. And you just figure it out. I mean, kids don't come with a manual. You have to figure it out as you go.
Right.
And the important thing is to just do with them what you would want them to do. It's just keep your hands to yourself.
Yep.
And figure out how to sort it out. You don't have to deal with it in the moment when you're angry.
Right.
You can figure it out.
Right.
These things sometimes take time.
The little phrase, use your words, seems like overdone before you have children. And then when you have them, it's like, yeah, words will definitely go a lot longer. And I know I've had moments where I've had these moments of, this is it. This is when the stress gets to you and it crosses your mind, like, this is that moment where I can choose to repeat the cycle or I can break it. And a lot of times I've had to go to other parents. I've gone online to the forums and all that stuff. But I've had a lot of moments where I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what the answer was.
And when those moments come up, this is one of those situations where doing nothing is better than doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say use your words. Mm-hmm. But it's probably even better to use your example, because if you hit a kid, the kid suddenly is going to say, well, this is how we solve problems.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And you just don't want to set up those cycles.
Right. And I think when you add in things like poverty, with the political climate that we have in Maine, in the United States right now, unfortunately, these things add a lot of stress. And this is without education behind you to know what to do with those feelings and that stress, because it happens. You cannot stop stress no matter how much yoga you do, how much medication you take. Stress is going to happen. And when you don't know what to do, everybody's been in that position of, especially when they're small.
Who doesn't want to slap around a politician right now?
Exactly, right? So use your words, Dave.
That's right.
Use your words. That's the whole, and that's where we are. Like, we're setting examples for our kids right now with what do you do with your anger? And that's really, well, sometimes you just got to sing it out in the shower, or go take out the guitar and learn a new song or whatever it takes. But we got to set. It's good to set a good example. And I think when people like yourselves are willing to come out and talk about child abuse and talk about how it's affected your life or what you'd want to see happen, that's important. It starts with conversations, and maybe someone sitting at home would say, "Huh, I'm not the only one that's been in that position." Everybody's got to learn, and it's a matter of reaching out and asking for a little bit of help, and hopefully the Miles for Smiles walk will encourage people to talk about it a little more. And maybe this person sitting next to you in the cubicle that you'd never think would participate in Go Blue Day, maybe you'd go, well, why do you care about that? Well, you know, my uncle, or my, you know, I had a cousin who, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that starts the conversation. That's really what the goal is. So thank you again for being here. And we'll let you guys get set up to play us a few tunes. And thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you.
Oh, this is the place where the fishermen gather with oilskins and boots and cape ends battened down. All sided up fingers with squid lines and jiggers, they congregate here on the squid jigging ground. Some are working their jiggers while others are yarning. There's some standing up, but there's more lying down. While all kinds of fun jokes and tricks are begun as they wait for the squid on the squid jigging ground. Well, there's men of all ages and boys in the bargain. There's old Billy Cave and there's young Raymond Brown. There's a red and Tory out here in a dory, running down stars on the squid jigging ground. Here we go. Oh, this is the place where the fishermen gather with oilskins and boots and cape ends battened down. All sided up figures with squid lines and jiggers, they congregate here on the squid jigging ground. Well, the man in the whiskers is old Jacob Steele. He's getting well up, but he's still pretty sound. While Uncle Bob Hawkins wears 6 pairs of stockings whenever he's out on the squid jigging ground. Now says Bobby the squid are on top of the water. I just got me jigger about 1 fathom down. Hey, the squid in the boat squirted right down his throat. Woo! And he's swearing like mad on the squid jigging ground. Oh, this is the place where the fishermen gather with oilskins and boots and cape ends battened down. All sided up figures with squid lines and jiggers, they congregate here on the squid jigging ground. Well, poor Uncle Billy, his whiskers are spattered with spots of the squid juice that's flying around. And one poor little boy got it right in the eye, but they don't give a darn on the squid jigging ground. Now, if ever you're feeling kind to go squidding, leave your white shirts and collars behind in the town. And if you feel cranky without your silk hanky, you better steer clear of the squid jigging ground. Oh, this is the place where the fishermen gather with oilskins and boots and cape ends battened down. All sided up figures with squid lines and jiggers, they congregate here on the squid jigging ground. Oh, this is the place where the fishermen gather with oilskins and boots and cape ends battened down. All sided up figures with squid lines and jiggers, with squid lines and jiggers, with squid lines and jiggers, they congregate here on the squid jigging ground. Step we gaily on we go, heel for heel, toe for toe, arm in arm and on we go, all for Marie's wedding. Over hill ways up and down, myrtle green and bracken brown, Pass the shilling through the town, all for the sake of mine.